I have a warning for the people around this world, and I don't know if I should give this warning or not, but I will. And it's based on this article here and this tweet from the U.S. Embassy in Kabul on August 9th, 2021. The United States, it states, the United States has been and will remain the ally to the Afghan people as they defended by the Afghan National Defense and Security Forces enduring partnership, hashtag enduring partnership. And Laura Logan, the journalist, says, as the bodies of children and unarmed civilians pile up and the Taliban once again imposes its brand of extreme militancy on Afghan communities, this must be seen for what it is, with friends like that. Who needs enemies? Right. Laura Logan is a very smart woman, but she's missing something here. And here's my reply to this. The U.S. has never been friends to the Afghans. Now, I maybe should say the U.S. government, but this is a tweet. The U.S. government has never been friends to the Afghans. The U.S. government is friends to the process of democracy. We tried to be a neutral arbiter between Afghanistans. We should have picked sides and crushed the enemies of those we chose as friends. Okay, that is sort of the warning here. At least since World War II, starting, maybe even before World War II, but since World War II starting, and very much so post-Cold War. Very much so post-Cold War. And things will change someday in the future, I'm sure, because things change. The U.S. government, the State Department particularly, but the U.S. government is not your friend anywhere out in the world. That doesn't mean they're evil, doesn't mean they're trying to hurt you, but they're not your friend. They're a friend to a process. They're a friend to an ideology of democracy. I didn't say freedom, I said democracy. They always talk about democracy. It's a process, not a state. See, freedom or control is not a process. Freedom or control could be a monarchy that's libertarian. And yeah, I'm, the king of Xanadu, but everybody in my kingdom can do whatever they feel like so long as, we have a police force that keeps you from harming other people, but can do whatever you want. It could be that. No, but the U.S. government will not like that because the U.S. government is friends of democracy, not friends of freedom or of control or anything else. They are friends of the process of democracy. They have this as an institutional ideology, being friends to a process. So whoever wins the free and fair open elections of Afghanistan is the rightful president of Afghanistan. So the U.S. government will support them. Right? And so if you're the current faction that's ruling Afghanistan, how is this going to go down with you? Especially in a country where real disputes are settled with guns and have been, or since guns have been, they've been settling it, and of course took weapons before that. So during the Cold War, there was a realpolitik, though the U.S. government was then and is now even more so ashamed of it, of supporting people like Pinochet, like my animation there, get that off the screen because it's beating. Pinochet in Chile, and he was a terrible man, and yeah, we got rid of Allende, a socialist leader that everyone talks about how great they are. They would talk about how great, well, they still sort of talk about how great Castro was in Cuba. But they would have talked about how great Castro was in Cuba if we had assassinated him early on, because he just would have been a social justice liberator from tyranny and whatnot. No, Allende, I don't know. We don't know what would have been, but I do believe Allende of Chile was going to take Chile down a socialist path and put them in the Soviet camp. And the Soviets would have demanded, as they always did, going back to Stalin, that it was going to be a Soviet-style, hardline government. It wasn't going to be allowed to be a moderate sort of thing in eventualities. So they're ashamed of supporting Pinochet. And I'm not saying Pinochet's a good guy. I'm just saying Pinochet was effective at keeping communism out of Chile. How's Chile doing right now? Well, there's good and bads with Chile. So, a hell of a lot better off, I believe, than Cuba or Nicaragua. So, yeah, a warning. And this is not just to governments, because they're not going to pay attention to some small-time YouTuber, but you out there, living in Norway, living in Italy, living in Japan, living in Australia, living in India. The U.S. government will not help you. Will not help you. They will help what they see as the process of democracy. So when a faction of your society decides to change what's going on in your society, they're going to go, it's the people's choice. We're for the people's choice. And yes, Mark Milley firmly believes that type of thing. And not for a state of being, like freedom or control, or supporting a particular religion, or supporting a particular ethnic group, or whatever. They are for supporting a process. And I'm sure many, if not most of the people that put that into action, truly believe that people are just people, and if given honest and free and fair elections, they're going to make reasonably good choices, and it's going to be the world just going to get better, because democracies are just the thing. And if every country was a free and open democracy that's reasonable, given time, they'll just all be good. That's what they believe. They believe that. But so far, history has shown that that's not the case. Particularly when there is not a national consensus. See, democracies do at times work. There's very, very, very few actual true democracies, as my Swiss friend Lum says, that Switzerland is one of them. Yes, and Switzerland has huge consensus on what government should be in Switzerland. So they all mostly agree. So there is democracy works. Where you have bitter factions, like in Afghanistan, that go to language-based factions type. There isn't a unified consensus on what is the language of Afghanistan. Oh, I'm sure, I forget what it is in, is it Farsi? No. I'm not sure, in Kabul, but in other regions it's different languages. So there's not a national consensus in Afghanistan. So if you are people that live in the upper valley having troubles with people in the lower valley, the U.S. long-term will not support you, because if the people in the lower valley win the elections, the U.S. is just going to go, yep, okay, they win. And then the people in the lower valley get you put in concentration camps. Now the U.S. will then later say, oh, that's terrible, they shouldn't do that. But they'll let it happen because they'll support the democracy and not see the eventual erosion of society. So this is a warning out there to people, and of course the particularly close supporter or people that lived by supporting the interventionist troops are, of course, in massive danger in Afghanistan. So if you ever are somewhere and do you want to be an interpreter for the American forces, unless they promise you and you've seen a good history of them getting you out when the U.S. finally withdraws, like it has everywhere, every time, because the U.S. has no intention of staying, they want to put a process in place. And they are very willing to see, like in Iraq, oh, well, we want to put democracy in place. And then watch Iran subvert, or however you want to say it, the country democratically into the factions that support Iran. And then once they're in power, will be Iran's puppet and install an Iranian-style government. They're very willing to let that happen. So this is a warning. The U.S. government, not Americans, not the people, they trust their government. And I think back to the days in which I and other Americans supported the Afghan people against the Soviet invasion. And that, quite honestly, for my part, was just an anti-communist play. Not that I thought the Afghan government before it or whatever were going to be great people. It's just the enemy that was invading them, where the U.S. government was very reluctant to support the fight against the Soviet Union. And so, yeah, the U.S. government is not your friend. They are a friend of a process. Hey, like, share, subscribe, and let the world know. Share this video out. Let the world know the dangers of the U.S. government. Speaking as an American. Thank you, everyone. Be safe.